What's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be getting back to our 100 Films in 100 Days series. I've kind of slipped a little bit. There's been a lot of stuff going on with just work being really all over the place, and my favorite NFL team is making it a lot further into the playoffs than I was expecting. So I'm hopefully hopping back on and being able to keep up with this again now. So 100 Films, 100 Days. The next 10 days, we're going to be doing 10 days of rom-com because it's officially February. Love is in the air. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. And rom-coms are some of my favorite genres. One of my favorite films of all time is 10 Things I Hate About You. And because I really love that movie, I really think I should try to watch more rom-coms that came out during that era, and also try to catch up on some of the ones that have came out over the last couple of years that have kind of flown under the radar. So starting off, we're going to be talking about a classic rom-com that I believe came out in the year 2003. You'll be wrong about that. It definitely came out at the beginning of the 2000s. We're talking about the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I, personally, do not know much about this movie at all. All I really know is that this movie is probably going to take place over the course of, I'm going to guess, 10 days. That's it. That's literally all that I know about this movie. So, that being said, the day that I'm watching this, it's on Netflix. I believe it's leaving Netflix, though. So I don't know if you guys will be able to watch this movie either. So, that being said, I'm going to go check it out, and I'll come back with my initial thoughts, reaction, review, tell you if it's overrated, underrated, and give it a score on a scale of 1 to 100. Let's dive into this, shall we?
Dun, 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 dun. 100 films in 100 days.
Okay! I'm going to keep it real with you guys. That one was a little bit of a tough watch for me. Something about me that some of you guys may know, some of you guys might not know. I am not a big fan of secondhand embarrassment, and maybe I should have seen this coming because Kate Hudson's character is trying to push away the love interest in this movie. There's a lot of very bad secondhand embarrassment. There are times they're out on dates and she's purposely doing stuff to kind of embarrass him. There's a lot of times where, like, there's very awkward moments because she's being over the top and really over dramatic, and she's purposely trying to, like, dial everything up to 100 to kind of make him feel really awkward and uncomfortable. And as an audience member, it also made me feel kind of uncomfortable. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. I do think that for the most part, they have great chemistry right off the bat, which is something that's really interesting. This film starts off, and both of these characters are kind of like using each other for a really interesting thing, which I do think at the end of the day, this movie has a very interesting concept. And I really like the way that everything is fleshed out and the way that these two characters end up having this really big conflict over the fact that, like, you were using me. Oh, but you were also using me. And then kind of coming together and kind of realizing that they both did kind of shitty things and that they both need to forgive themselves and then forgive each other. I think that that's really cool. But I really do like the fact that when they first meet in the bar, they hit off really well. They both seem like completely normal people. And they slowly start slipping away because Kate Hudson's character is trying to purposely push this guy away. So she's being really overdramatic. She's being way too clingy, over the top. She immediately starts moving in with him and putting, like, stuffed animals all over his bed. Pretty pink bed sheets on his bed, putting her stuff in the bathroom, which leads to one of the funniest scenes I think I've ever seen in a movie. I know that when it comes to rom-coms, sometimes they don't really care as much about the comedy side of things. They really care about the romance side of things. I think this movie has some incredible comedic bits, and one of my favorites is there's a scene, it's like the fourth day in or something like that, where Matthew McConaughey quickly goes to his bathroom and he notices some of her stuff is on the vanity, and then they kind of score this scene like it's a horror movie, and he quickly looks under the cabinets under the sink and he sees that there's a bunch of her, like, products or whatever, and then he opens up the medicine cabinet, sees that she has a bunch of stuff in the medicine cabinet, and it's just playing, like, very eerie, like, horror movie music, and I think that that is so hilarious. I think that that is absolutely funny as hell. I think that that is so good because, obviously, to this guy who's just, like, a regular jabroni who's constantly sleeping around with a bunch of women and has, never taken a relationship super serious in his life, now he's like, well, there's a woman, and she's moving in, and she's, taking over my space. And he is terrified of that. That is, like, the scariest thing ever to him. And I think that that's kind of funny. So I really enjoyed that. I think that Kathryn Hahn is a delight in this. I didn't know Kathryn Hahn was going to be in this movie. So now seeing this, retroactively watching Glass Onion, and seeing that be, like, kind of a reunion film for Kate Hudson and Kathryn Hahn, that's pretty fun. I think that their dynamic in this is fun, even though this is a movie that I feel like barely passes the Bechdel test. I don't even know if it does pass the Bechdel test, because it's constantly, the girl is always having to give updates about her date, because that's, like, the whole project, is that her and this guy are going on dates, and she's trying to make the guy not want to continue to go on dates with her. So the majority of the conversations in this movie is her talking about, oh well, things are going relatively well. I got us a dog. I did this over the top thing, but he's still sticking with me for some reason. So that was interesting. I liked that. I also like that Matthew McConaughey's character kind of picks up on the fact that she's clearly trying to kind of push him away. And they have a sequence in an elevator that I think is really, really good where like Kate Hudson's character just kind of tried to like ruin his poker night and then she's running out, storming out on him. And he goes up to her and he's like, hey, why are you acting crazy? And she's just like, so you think I'm crazy? And he's like, no, I think you're acting crazy. And he talks about how the first day she was completely normal and how she's a journalist and how she has all these dreams and aspirations and that she's a very intelligent young woman. And he understands and knows that she's incredibly intelligent and that the things that she's doing right now are over the top. And he wants to know why she's putting on this crazy act. And I really like that scene because something about this movie that I do kind of like is it almost is like an enemies to lover trope, but not because they're enemies, but because Kate Hudson is like purposely trying to make this as difficult as possible for him, and he's working as hard as possible to kind of like break past these walls that she's putting up, and he does such an incredible job because sequences like that make her realize, wow, this guy actually kind of gets me on a deeper level, and he kind of like is really trying his best to actually be there for me and support me and love me, even though I'm being a total asshole to him. And I like that. I think that that's a really great moment. And then they have their little therapy session, which also doesn't go particularly well because Catherine Hahn is pretending to be a therapist and things aren't necessarily going great for them because she's a mess, he's a mess. They're both messy together. And Catherine Hahn just kind of decides, oh my God, yeah, you guys should do a little weekend getaway trip. It sounds really cute. And this is where the movie finally starts getting good. In my opinion, it's about like 50 minutes into the movie. And they finally start having sequences where they're really close. They have moments where they're starting to like see each other for who they actually are behind all of the like performative sides of them because Matthew McConaughey, he's a guy. He wants guys to like him. He wants guys to think that he's cool. So he's constantly going above and beyond and doing these super macho, masculine, sportsy things. And whenever he's with his family, he's more of like a sweetheart. He's good with children. He's like super protective of his parents and he's super like able to read people at a level that's not really like discussed a lot, but like he is really good with people skills. And that's something that gets established during just a simple game of them playing a card game. And Kate Hudson is watching him and just kind of realizing, wow, this guy is actually a really good guy. And I'm an idiot for trying to push this guy away. And I'm like, why am I trying to take this job over something that could actually be a really real and romantic relationship? And I love the fact that this sequence kind of ends with the mom being like, I'm so glad you came. This is the first time Matthew McConaughey's character has ever brought a girl home to us. And it's so wholesome and cool and cute. And then they have the scene in the bathroom where he's kind of explaining to her how the shower works and stuff like that. And then they kiss. And it's so genuine. It feels so earned. They both have been being like not great towards each other, but they finally have this moment where they're seeing eye to eye and it's super romantic and it's super cute. And I love that. And then the end of the movie kind of ramps back up the chaos and them trying to separate each other and them being over the top and not great for each other and a lot of secondhand embarrassment. And it kind of falls apart again. So on the one hand, I can see why people would like this. If you're a girl watching rom-coms and seeing all the ways that Matthew McConaughey's character is super patient and he's constantly trying to do whatever he can to stay with her despite Kate Hudson purposely pushing him away, there's a lot of romantic elements of it that I can see why people would enjoy it. But for me, it's a hard watch. I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time getting through this entire movie, and I like it. I like a lot of elements of it. I like the fact that, he chases her down at the end of the movie, and they have a callback to that game of bullshit, which is where they really fell in love. I think that that's awesome. But for the most part, I think that this movie had way too much cringy elements for me to personally enjoy it. I definitely don't think that that's a fault of the movie. I think that that's what the movie's going for, and obviously that's on me for not, expecting that and not seeing it coming. But I like this movie. I can see why other people like this movie. As far as like overrated, underrated, I would say it's probably overrated. I feel like there's got to have been better rom-coms that have came out around this era, that for this to be considered to be like, oh my God, this is one of the best rom-coms ever. I don't know about that. I truly think that there's a lot of better stuff that could have potentially been out there. But because there's that 15 minutes that are super solid and I do really like, it's okay. If I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 100, give it a little grade, I would give this movie probably a solid 71. my personal enjoyment of it just wasn't great. I think that it was a little slow to get going, and I think that, like I said, the first 50 minutes of it were really painful as somebody who feels secondhand embarrassment and kind of hates the way that they start off this movie with her constantly embarrassing him. But that being said, it gets better. There are some great moments in it. I definitely would recommend checking it out. But that being said, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow.